As Mark Carney had to shift. He's off the trail today to deal with cabinet, to deal ultimately with the 25% tariff coming from Donald Trump. How does this change the game potentially, politically, for Mark Carney?
Well, at a higher level, it's very good for his campaign because his campaign has always been about him being the best person to lead Canada through this real crisis. So for that crisis to come piling into the campaign at this precise moment means that he, Mark Carney, is able to talk to Canadians about what's wrong and what has to be fixed. He's able to talk at that level, to talk about the fact that he's going to be in contact with Trump, that he's steered the United Kingdom through the Brexit crisis. He was there playing a lead role here in Canada during the 2008 crisis. And he's worked, in charge of a $1 trillion pension fund, investment fund. And it's interesting, just as the Conservatives were trying to get some traction with their mudslinging against Carney, Carney returns as the guy who can get Canada through this mess. So overall, the detail, the regular campaign stuff that has been planned is going to be put in abeyance somewhat, if not largely, for the next week until we get the details and we find out more precisely what's happening next Wednesday. But there's no question that Canadians are looking at Carney now the way they were as they boosted him up in the polls as the guy who can get this done.
Is now the time to have a conversation with Donald Trump?
I think Carney has already said clearly that he wants to talk to Trump now. He also laid down a very strong marker saying he wasn't going to meet with Trump as long as Trump didn't stop his nonsense about the 51st state. I think that was also a wise call. I'll never criticize Trudeau, by the way, for going down to Mar-a-Lago when he did quickly after Trump became president. I think that was the right call then. But we just saw that the Donald Trump that came into office was even more chaotic and out of control than the guy that we knew in his first term. So, nobody can be blamed for trying. Canada's in a tough spot where our economy is so intertwined with the American economy. The guest that you just had on, Mr. Johnson, was explaining that, we've had since the Auto Pact 60 years ago of meshing together the automobile industry where things are manufactured at the place where it can be done at the best price and get the best result and, the least expensive car for consumers. Trump doesn't understand any of that. And what Trump believes is that somehow by imposing tariffs on American consumers, they're the ones who pay this. We don't. American consumers do. And by imposing those tariffs, magically, all of the car companies are going to come in and set up shop in the United States. It's a pipe dream. It's not true. But almost everything that Trump says is not true. What I think will happen is that as the smarter people around him, like Howard Lutnick, and there are some very smart people around Trump, no one will accuse him of being smart, but they will start saying, boss, this is such an amazing idea. It's gone so well. You can claim victory, but we're going to have to attenuate it somewhat because, of course, it's going to be chaos. And the price of the average pickup truck in the States is going to go up $7,000 or $8,000. So it's the type of thing that Trump does. He creates chaos, he retreats because he'll have to retreat, and then he'll declare victory. That's the Trump method.
I want to ask you lastly this morning for your take on Premier Smith's trip to Florida. She's defending it, saying it's an opportunity for her to explain Canada's position. Do you think she should go?
No, I think that Premier Smith has been the fly in the ointment, frankly, in everything that Canada has tried to do as a team. This Team Canada approach, elbows up, getting together, working hard. And look at some of the changes. François Legault had been adamantly opposed to pipelines going across Quebec, said there was no acceptability. Now he's open to it. He realizes that he's part of a team, that this insecurity and instability brought by Trump has to be met with unity and resolve on the Canadian side. So what we learned earlier this week when we played the recording, because she's trying to deny she said what she said, but there's what you call a recording of it. She was on Breitbart and she said that she had asked the Americans to put a pause on the tariffs so that Poilievre could win because Poilievre was ideologically closer to Trump. I mean, it's there, and she can deny it till the cows come home, but it's there. And so for her to be going now to the United States, again, the Lone Ranger, she's out there, she's got her own agenda. It's just so ill-advised. It's impossible to say what a bad idea it is. She's going to be consulted, Carney has this team that's put together around him that includes senior people from the world of politics, from business, who will be giving him good advice. I do think, Marcia, if I can be allowed to say this bit, I do think it would be a gracious gesture on Carney's part if he were to reach out sincerely to the leaders of the other parties and include them in some way in this discussion.
Tom,
I think
I'm
it
gonna
might
have to
depoliticize it.
Okay, that's great. Thanks so much. I gotta have to skip.